folks. Grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys present Tales of the Trophies, the Big Ten's greatest rivalries. It's Mike here with EJ. Joe, not with us this week. EJ, how we doing, bud? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling awesome, and Joe is not with us this week for wonderful reasons. So we don't usually talk too much about our personal lives here on the pod, but this is some awesome news, so I thought it'd be worth sharing, and made sure it was okay by Joe.
This is on me because I didn't know if when I hit record, I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't ask if we can bring this up, but okay, yes. I guess we can. Okay,
yes,
great,
we definitely can. So as you guys are maybe aware, maybe not aware, but Joe and I are cousins. I know we've probably mentioned it once or twice, but both of our wives have been pregnant, and we both have been expecting, but there were a few weeks difference in when the due dates were, and Joe's due date was this last week, and on Friday he had his little girl finally came, so it was very, very exciting news. So Joe is very busy with said baby, and also by coincidence my daughter decided that she also wanted to come on Friday and share a birthday with her cousin. So my daughter was also born on Friday, which is very exciting. My daughter was born.
That's early. Really weird. This is the first time I've heard you saying the words "my daughter."
I know.
It's blowing my mind wide open.
Yes. So
this is strange. I need a minute.
So my daughter was born a couple weeks early, so she needed to go to the NICU because of her weight. She's very happy, very healthy, progressing well, but she's still in the NICU. So that has afforded me the time to do this that Joe does not have today. So
no,
that
Joe,
is why I am
Joe's
here,
got some things to do.
Yeah, so very excited. The Whisker and Whiskeys family grew by 2 this last Friday.
Two beautiful baby girls. Thank God they look nothing like their dads. Although you and me look alike, so that's probably I disparaged myself a little bit there, but it's all right.
Yes. So beautiful news here. Because of that, I don't know what you're drinking, Mike, but I just have some bullet on the rocks here.
And we can actually test to see how my wife listens to the show, because I'm just drinking Knob, but I was out, so I went to the liquor store earlier tonight, and I went there and they had Jefferson, I was out of Knob, so I grabbed that, and then they had Old Forester 1910 and 1920. 2 bottles of the 1910, 1 bottle of the 1920. So I'm like, okay, I'll take those. And then I look behind the counter and I'm like, after I'd rung up, I look behind the counter. There's like a little table where he keeps like the good stuff.
Good stuff.
What you got back there? And he had, so I saw a Jefferson's bottle with a green label, and I'll show you what that is right there. So that's you can't really, it's not super great.
No,
quality,
but I can tell.
So it's got a green stamp on it. It's Jefferson's rye finished in cognac casks. I'm like, okay, yeah, you can go ahead and put that right there, because I really like what is it? Macallan does a sherry oak finish on one of their 12, I think, and it's incredible. I strongly recommend that for any Scotch drinkers out there. It's sweet. My wife hates it because she doesn't like the smell. It's super sweet, but it's really good. And my dad actually liked it a lot too.
I might have to try that. I'm not a big, I like Scotch, but I'm not a big smoky guy.
Yeah.
My favorite Scotch is, I'm going to butcher how to say this because it's Scottish, but Glenmorangie, and I love it because it's much more on the fruitier side, and it doesn't have the peat, because I'm not a big smoky guy. So I wonder if I'd like that then. I know Macallan has some peat, but if it had that extra sweetness, I might
I'll let you know. I mean, it's definitely like the sherry, because sherry's like super sweet, so you get a lot of that. It's good. And my dad, I mean, his favorite drink, the Godfather, is it was yeah, it Disaronno, and he prefers pinch scotch, but the Disaronno makes it really sweet. So he did like that. I gave him some of that when he came down to visit me. He loved it.
Did he say,
so,
give me that?
He said, I'm going to drink the whole thing. So they had that, and then they had Four Roses Small Batch Select, which I've never had. I almost bought two because Four Roses Small Batch is like such a slept on.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's so. I feel like it's gotten more recognition, but I feel like it was slept on for a while. But I've never had the Small Batch Select.
No.
So I almost bought two.
Yeah, Four Roses is one where I had heard about it, with a lot of these, and I just finally tried it, and it was so smooth. I don't know if I don't know. I'm gonna say I was surprised. I don't know why I was surprised, but it was good, and it's not super expensive either. It's not like over the top.
It's super reasonable. Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed Four Roses.
Yeah. So I picked up. I went for one bottle and I picked up. I mean, you go for one and you never really get one, but I ended up picking up 5. So I'm pretty happy about that, especially because in Virginia, there's for folks who don't live in Virginia, we have state stores that sell our liquor, and they usually there's online lotteries throughout the year. I actually won my very first lottery that I did, got a ball of 1792. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a rare version of 1792. But they do online lotteries. But then this Saturday, the state has such a surplus of like E.H. Taylor and like really, really rare whiskeys, just Scotch, bourbon, rye, like a good variety. They have so many rare bottles that they distribute. Instead of 10 per store, it's like 2 dozen like 2 dozen, 3 dozen per store. So it's just line up outside and get your ticket. And the guy told me, he's like, show up. He's like, people show up at like 5 a.m. Just try, because it's just one ticket, and you can get one bottle with one ticket. And when you open up, whoever's in line first, they get to choose one of those particular bottles. So I am not gonna get a chance to do that this Saturday, but I'm like, well, I got a good haul. Like the Old Forester 1910, 1920, that was good, and then these things are pretty rare too. So I was pretty happy.
You might have to give me that list, and maybe I won't be able to stand out there, but maybe I'm lucky enough to have, because I know like my VABC store opens at like noon. It's weird. It's a little later than other ones, but maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe people in Dumfries just don't care about good whiskey.
So every time we go to Kara's hometown, they always have what's the Yamazaki, the Japanese whiskey that I really like. It's just sitting there. There's like a dozen bottles on the top shelf collecting dust because no one freaking buys it. But they have, so they will have this weekend. It's different based on the store, but every store is going to have at least some of these. And this is a sample of the list. So E.H. Taylor, single barrel, barrel proof, and straight rye. Elijah Craig, 18-year, single barrel. George T. Stagg bourbon. Old Forester, 150th anniversary bourbon. Weller Special Reserve. Weller Full Proof. Weller Special Reserve as a handle and a fifth.
So for $900?
No, it's there's no upcharge. It's just a cost.
No, I'm picturing a handle of like good bourbon is going to be above what.
Oh, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. Because I was gonna say I don't think it's. Yeah, because with the lottery you just pay cost. So yeah, you're paying. Then that's the nice thing too. You pay a cost. You don't pay the markup. So back in Maryland, some liquor stores, because in Maryland it's not run by the state, when they get like a bottle like Pappy or something, they'll raffle it off, and you just pay the cost. You don't pay the markup there. So it's like doubly good. But to get a ticket for the lottery, you have to like buy a bottle or something like that.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Maybe you're gonna have to send me a list or tell me. I've honestly I mean, I'm still relatively new to the whiskey scene, probably the last 3 or good whiskey scene. Let's say that, like drinking whiskey, but like actually carrying and trying a little bit more expensive stuff. So you're going to have to tell me which one, like a tier it for me, and maybe I'll swing by Saturday, see if my store, most likely if it's, if it's a really big deal, they probably won't have them by the time I can get there, but you never know.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. Cause I would imagine like what you said that maybe people in your area wouldn't care as much. Like I might, like if I were around, I would go there and I would just go to your house and we could go and hang out. Cause that's like, at least we're there together and like,
right.
So.
I'd say the only things that, one, my daughter could be coming home, and two,
that too.
Right. That my Saturday, I have a haircut appointment. For the listeners that can't see me, my hair is almost to my shoulders. It's longer than it's ever been, and my wife absolutely hates it. And so,
boo, Kelly, boo.
So I'm getting my hair cut on Saturday. My daughter could be coming home, and we have Michigan State, Ohio State at noon. So,
speaking of which,
yes. So let's get into some college football recap here. So let's recap Floyd of Rosedale. I didn't catch the game. I caught some highlights, and I mean, ultimately, I think the difference was Iowa went with a different quarterback, and that quarterback threw 3 touchdowns. Sophomore, it's Alex Padilla, I think, or something Padilla. I mean, he didn't look like spectacular, but he looked like a college football quarterback, and that's saying something compared to Petrus. So, yeah, I mean, Iowa ended up coming away with a really good win, close game that really came down to the last, couple minutes. And
I loved all the publicity that Floyd was getting on game day, because I was curious about how much they were going to talk about, and Herbie talked about it a little bit, and it was great. It was pretty cool. I was definitely paying extra attention. Like, I mean, I watch every Saturday, obviously, but I was like really paying attention and like bobbing back and forth between stuff, because I knew that you and Joe were unable to watch because you had other things going on. So I was like, all right, I better pay extra attention for them, for the boys. It was cool, man. And I loved, just to step back a little bit too, like game day was in Oxford and they all had their bow ties on and everything. And it was like, oh man, I really want to get to the Grove for games sometime, because it just seems like such a good party. So
yeah, one thing I also didn't realize, and maybe it's just because I've been aloof to that, because college game day, like I love college football, but college game day itself has not been something that I've always like paid attention to. I mean, typically I tune in the last, the picks in the last like 5 minutes before the noon game start. But I didn't realize that Coach Corso will stay on the sideline of the team he picks. Did you know that? That's his tradition. So when they're at a game, like when they're at a campus for the game, he sticks around, because obviously Herb Street goes wherever he has to announce.
Sometimes he flies away.
But Coach Corso will stand on the sideline of the team that he picks for the entire game. So I watch
game day. Like game day is my tradition.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that at all.
Yeah. So he was hanging out with like Lane Kiffin during the game. Just
that's awesome. I had no idea. Lane was the guest picker.
Yeah.
Dude, like, I mean, I know people crap on Lane, but like he was hilarious. Like he was, because he came on, something must have fell through with the guest picker.
I was gonna say, I've never seen an active coach of the team that they're there for.
Well, it was all his picks. Did you see his picks?
No, I heard about it, but I didn't.
It was funny because he's like, I play golf with this guy, so I'm going with this team. Like he didn't give like any real reasons, and then he chose.
That's probably better.
Yeah, and like the only one that was like that got a boo was I think he picked Mississippi State, and the crowd like freaked out. But Herbie's like, "That's smart. You play them. Like you still have them on the schedule." So, and Wayne just goes, But it was cool, man. I thought it was good. Desmond actually like. I'll say this because Joe's not here and you'll like it. Desmond like was geeking out about he he was breaking down Michigan, and he brought Lane onto the set like impromptu before the pick started, and he was geeking about Michigan. Or no, I'm sorry, he was geeking about Ole Miss, and he was talking about like how Lane throws his hands up in the air for a touchdown and everything.
Yeah.
And it was just like Desmond was really forcing it, and Lane was just like, all right, man, how about you just relax a little bit? Like it was funny though, man.
I will say, and I think we talked about this during the Paul Bunyan, Desmond. I can't believe how old that dude is. Like, I assumed he played at Michigan in the 90s. He played like in the early 80s. That dude just looks fantastic. Wow. Like, beyond him being, never going to pick against Michigan and, a little bit of a homer when it comes to that. I was honestly shocked. Looks great.
I will say though, everyone looked like game day started and Corso was like great. I was like, man, coach is right. Like something about Oxford must be the fountain of youth for him, because like dude, he sounded so, I mean, I know he had the stroke and everything, and some people give him a hard time, but like, I mean, let him do it as long as he wants. And he was really good on Saturday. Like, I was like, all right, coach, like, I was cheering for him a little bit. He sounded real good.
So what's the, because he picked Ole Miss. What's the headgear stuff for that? Like,
it was just the helmet.
The helmet.
He just put on the helmet. Yeah.
Okay. And then just the last thing I'll say about the Floyd of Rosedale game was I loved Minnesota's jerseys.
Yes.
They had maroon pants, white jersey, and then they had the gold helmet, the gold shiny helmet.
It's our fit king. It's our fit god. You think that PJ Fleck's going to have the boys out there looking like scrubs? Like our fit king's going to have them looking good.
Well, I don't know. I mean, a maroon and gold are a good color combo, but
great
I don't
color
know.
combo. It's an elite color combo. Yeah.
But especially when it's a road jersey, you never really know what you're going to get.
Dude, I had a maroon and gold rugby shirt from American Eagle that I rocked the hell out of in
my high school. My high school's colors were maroon and gold. So
man, I went to the wrong high school. Although orange and black, I guess, is something
that's always that's classic. A little Halloween action there.
Yeah, it's
Okay, so why don't we move on to the statement wins here? And the first one that really caught my eye, and again, I think it's pretty well known that I'm, not the biggest Michigan fan. I truly hate Michigan, but I can be objective. Like, I'm not like silly over the top with it. But honestly, Michigan beating Penn State, and while Penn State's not spectacular, they're a solid team. They went on the road. I mean, Penn State was up. I caught the very end of that game. Penn State went up they were down with like maybe 7 minutes left, and then had pulled within whatever it was, like 4, and then got like a turnover and went up by 3. And it was just like, it seemed like it was done. It seemed like another, Harbaugh, let's cue the music, him choking, and Michigan battled back and they kept their hopes alive.
Yeah.
So as tough as it probably was to lose to Michigan State, ultimately, they take care of business against Maryland this week, and then they got Ohio State, and they got a shot to get to the Big Ten championship and put themselves in the playoff. And that's kind of shocking, based on the last few years with Harbaugh. He really turned it around this year.
Yeah, I watched this game, and it was a big, like, my heart is full moment, because it's like you and Joe, had the thing, like, you have daughters now. So I was getting some updates from that, and then I'm putting up my Christmas tree, and like I have a Christmas village, which is a big deal to me. And I was setting that up too, and kind of decking the halls of the house. And Michigan Penn, it was a great game. It was I was looking back and forth between a couple of the noon games, but Michigan and Penn State got most of my attention, and it was just a really good game, man. Like, it was, Penn State is such a good environment, but dude, hats off to Michigan. Like, they really, really played well in that game, again, in a tough environment with some adverse situations on their end too. Like, and Harbaugh, even, did you see he burned his pants?
No.
On the heater. He like, his pants like melted from the sideline heater. Yeah. But it was a good game, man. It was a lot of fun, kind of back and forth there. So I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a lot of fun.
And it's going to be one of those things. And I can't say anything until, the game is played. I mean, obviously Harbaugh kind of this year, especially after the last couple of years, really trying to at least, say that he was trying to modernize the way, because he loves to play just hard nose, run the ball. Like he's an old school kind of guy. And that's, the team's really struggled because, the modernization of football really doesn't cater to that anymore. And especially the last couple of years, he tried the speed and space and tried all this stuff. And this year, I mean, he just went back to what he knows and what he does. And it's gotten him this far. Obviously, I personally think, I have a bad feeling about Michigan, Ohio State for them because of that. But I mean, what can you say? Yeah,
we'll see.
You're one loss at this point. And anything can happen in a rivalry game, but we'll see.
I don't think Ohio State's that good, but that's neither here nor there. I will say that I'll say it. The one thing that I don't think any team is that good this year, though. I think
Ohio State scores a lot of points.
I actually think the best team is Oregon. I'll be dead honest. I think Oregon's the best team.
But we're going to get up to upset alert later.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But when I thought it was, I was nervous for Joe. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't let your sweet daughter this be her first experience with Michigan football. When Penn State lined up for a punt and Michigan called a timeout because they thought it might be a fake. And then they came back from the timeout and Penn State still did the fake punt and executed and got the first down. I was just like, oh no, like that's just classic. I was like, that's so Harbaugh. But it ended up, being fine in the end. I really think that Michigan has a good chance against Ohio State. So.
All I know is from what I saw today, the opening line is -4 Ohio State. And boy, am I going to put some money on that.
-4 Ohio State?
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't think either team, Michigan State or Michigan, and we'll get to that in a little bit, is within 10 points of them. I just don't. Unless I could be proven wrong, but I just personally just don't. And the next statement win for me was Ohio State versus Purdue. And while Purdue coming in hot, beat 2 top 10 teams, consistency's been their issue. Went to Columbus. I mean, Ohio State dropped how much on them? 40 plus.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much from the get-go too. It wasn't really a game. Ohio State jumped out pretty big. I mean, Purdue, fought back, tried to stay in it, but it was
a massacre.
It was a massacre. And while Ohio State's defense isn't any good, that offense just continues.
They're all healthy. Everyone's healthy now
just
too.
Click.
Like that's the problem. I still think it's weird, man. It's a different Ohio State because their defense really is not that good. And like if the offense fumbles, like I still think that I think their quarterback's just not that good. Like he's a freshman and he had some good
not that
games.
Good. They beat Michigan and Michigan State. He's the Heisman. I'm just going to put that out there now.
But this is the thing though. He's looked good. I still don't know who Ohio State's played that's that impressive. Like, honestly, Michigan State and Michigan will tell me a lot. But Michigan State secondary, like, I don't know.
We're going to get there. I personally don't know that you're going to hold Ohio State under 30. I don't think that happens unless they melt down.
He might though. That's the thing. He's a true freshman.
While I feel like some of this prejudice is the early games that we watched of Ohio State. If you look at his numbers, man, I mean, this guy has a bad day and throws
nobody. They have played nobody.
Right, but then
I am calling into the Paul Feinbaum show right now. They ain't played nobody, Paul. Nobody.
Okay. But then you're talking about Michigan and Michigan State, but then who plays the same exact schedule? That's the catch there. You can't.
At least they play each other.
You can't be hopeful for Michigan to beat them, and then realize that the only team worth playing they lost to. So
they looked like crap. So when they've played tough teams, that offense hasn't looked that good. When they played Oregon, obviously they lost, and by all rights, Penn State probably should have won that game.
I'm gonna give Ohio State a break with their true freshman opening weekend, or whatever it was, second week, first week. I'll give him a pass on an Oregon team that's obviously very good.
Well, but they also should have lost to Penn State. Like I think Penn State should, it is what
I think it's they're obviously they're going to get a chance to prove it. I don't know. I feel like there's plenty of years every year where you could say the same thing about most of these top teams. I personally have seen enough from Ohio State to know that you have to score at least 35 to beat them. On their bad days, they're scoring 35. And Michigan against good teams, because I'm not going to say Michigan State's defense is any good. I don't think they can just run the ball up the middle like they like to do against Ohio State. I think if Ohio State scores touchdowns, it's going to be hard to keep up with. And I'd say I'm going to say the exact same thing and a little bit about Michigan State as well. But I don't know. I personally thought Ohio State really, especially with people like you that don't believe in them, Purdue was a hot team coming in. They put them to bed quickly and easily. So
we're just coming off a big win,
guess we'll see.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
And then the last statement win here was Ole Miss, Texas A&M. The Rebels just absolutely dominated that game. A&M just was a mess. And what was surprised me was Calzada, is that his name?
Yeah.
Kept throwing picks. Ole Miss's defense hasn't been any good all year long, and they look elite.
True freshman, EJ. Freshman. That's what happens sometimes. You can look great against Alabama, whose defense stinks. Who's hand up defense stinks, and except for Will Anderson, I love you. I hope you get the Heisman, buddy. You're the best. But defense stinks, and defensive coach stinks. All the players, they're fine. Their coach stinks. But yeah, it was also a tough environment to play in.
Well, it was the first road game that they've played, and that kind of showed you where they were. So a lot of people can talk about how great A&M is and all this and that, but ultimately College Station is top 5 easy, home advantages in all of college football. And they finally had to play someone on the road, and it showed.
That's an interesting point you just raised.
They talked about it during the game. They played no one on the road.
No, I'm talking about top 5 home advantages. That should be something that we cover at some point, because I'm thinking Penn State, both Death Valleys. Although I don't know if Clemson's Death Valley, I would argue. Good. I think LSU's Death Valley is legit.
Yeah,
Clemson's I don't know. So Penn State, LSU, Utah is a major home field advantage.
Right. So your best team in college football is 3-point underdogs.
Hey, they're gonna be all right. Sergio's gonna be all right. This is for y'all. I think you're gonna be okay.
This could be bad news bears for them.
It could be. I hope it's not. Yeah. We'll have to do that sometime. Morgantown.
That's also someone who goes to Morgantown. Shoot. Baylor Stadium's
no joke.
Baylor, I believe.
Baylor already went there.
So someone ranked in the Big 12 is going to Morgantown, and I'm betting against them.
I think Baylor already went there.
I can't remember. I was looking quickly today, but yeah. So
Baylor lost there, didn't they? Hold on, not now.
Well, I can move on while you look this up.
Oh no, hold on. Don't move on, because there's one more statement win that I want to talk about for being a statement win in quotes, and that is Samford and Florida. That game was a statement win, but it was a statement about how much Dan Mullen stinks out loud, because wow, that was embarrassing.
If he's there for next season,
absolutely,
it just seems pretty
embarrassing,
evident that the team has given up on him.
Baylor beat West Virginia at home, but yeah, and that was something they talked about on game day too, like the fact that this happened last year. Guys sat out of the bowl game. They had given up on the Florida team, and they're just like, I'm trying to get the hell out of here and get to the NFL. And same thing is happening again. Like, how much longer can Dan Mullen stay there?
No, it's not. It's not a good team that's going to West Virginia.
Oh, who is it?
Just look at my screen. Just look.
Oh no.
And it's only so the Longhorns go to West Virginia and they're only 4-point dogs. I'm probably going to go pretty heavy on the home team there.
Oh God. So Texas is not back. Let's just go to our upsets, because EJI added one and I'm just sad.
Yeah, so we'll start with Oklahoma, sad. Baylor.
Well, we were talking about Texas. Okay. Let's just start there.
I mean, typically we like upsets, that are like ranked teams, but this is just a sad. Yes, Texas lost at home to Kansas, not Kansas State, and not in basketball, in football, to Kansas.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk touchdowns.
Probably, honestly, that to me, even in his first year, is a fireable offense. Like, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that Steve Sarkisian's not fired. I don't know. I mean, he dresses really nicely. I don't know what he did, after the game to keep his job, but I mean, that's pretty inexcusable. They're barely
like he
a Division I football team.
He
like
is
barely
a very good offensive coordinator, like a very good offensive mind guy. I get head coach is a lot different, but like,
it doesn't matter. You have the money, the resources, and you should have the talent to overcome that. And I know Bijan Robinson got hurt and is done, but
you got an assistant coach with the stripper wife who has a monkey, that assaults people. It's
bad. Like, and it wasn't like a 9-6 weird game, right? In a monsoon.
No, it
like
was
Kansas put up some points. Yeah. Like it was no fluke. It was not like a weird pass.
You know what? You know what I think might have might have given them.
They got killed.
He might have been like, Oklahoma almost lost to Kansas.
Yeah.
He might have said that. Yeah. But like, I mean, I like Steve Sarkisian. He brought some natties to Alabama, so like I can't hate on him. But like,
all I know is that SEC is going. Yup, can't wait for them to come.
Oh, you know what though? I mean, I hate to say it, because if they end up in the West with Alabama, that hurts my heart. I'm gonna have to hate them, but I think that's good for Texas.
I don't see a way that they're gonna. I mean, maybe. I know geographically, that's becoming less and less relevant. Obviously,
if you're a football player though, if you are a high school kid and you have the chance to play, if I'm a high school kid and I'm trying to get to the NFL, the best way to get there is to play for an SEC school. And if Texas is now in the SEC, well, I mean, really.
I guess, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those catch-22s where if you're a 5-star athlete, you're a 5-star athlete, right? Like,
well, but how many 5-star athletes have faltered and failed? Like,
yeah, and maybe it's
Martell
the Big
was
Ten
a 5-star athlete.
If you are a fantastic football player, I mean, okay, who's arguably the best pass rusher? I would say top 3 in the last, say 6 years. Khalil Mack. He went to Buffalo. Like, if you're a baller, you don't need to go to the SEC to get drafted. I mean, I'd be interested to see what.
I would say TJ Watt, but that's
I mean, okay, that's a guy that went to Central Michigan and then went to Wisconsin. So, didn't need to go down south. Didn't need to JUCO it and go to one of the Mississippi schools. I don't know. Obviously, Alabama and Georgia probably skew that pretty heavily. I think if you're a good player, you're getting drafted regardless of where you're at.
Well, but if you're yeah, that's fair. If you're a good
I think
player,
if you just need to go to a big program,
but yeah,
like if you're a good player and you go to USC, and even though USC's dog shit right now, like if you're fantastic, they have a couple kids that are going to be borderline first round, second round picks. Like, I get it. Yes,
I will
sure.
say though that with NIL money being a thing now, I think Texas is going to step into prominence because I don't think God doesn't even have as much money as the Texas boosters have.
If I'm a Texas kid right now and they're in the SEC and I have to choose which school I'm going to, I'm probably going to College Station.
Are there any boosters? No. I mean, no freaking way, dude. Like I said, NIL money is the thing now. Who has more money than God? The Texas boosters. And that's it. Like that is an elite group of people.
Yeah.
And
it hasn't helped them so far. It's not like the NIL.
Well, because they've been able to give money. Like I know the NIL, like kids are getting money anyways, getting Ferraris and Corvettes and stuff dropped off. But now it's like, it's legit. And NIL booster, like with NIL, someone from Texas can just be like, hey, here you go. Here's like $1 million.
Well, the NIL started this year. And I mean, I don't know where Texas is ranked in the recruiting class as of next year, but I'm pretty sure A&M is number one.
Give it some time.
Okay. You can wait for it.
Number one recruiting class right now.
Yeah. After they pulled that, you just talked about it last week when they pulled the big defensive tackle. It was like,
but they went up to number one from that.
I believe so. I mean, they were top 10. Jimbo's been doing work.
That's
I
know.
Disappointing that they've just now blossomed, and the question mark is really have
the problem is, well, you know what though, the target's on his back now. Like the thing is to like Saban, like I said, after the loss to A&M, no one's gonna take that more personally than Nick Saban. The fact that like he gave Jimbo Fisher the rat poison. He said, "What are you gonna do? Beat me on the golf course?" Like he is so upset with himself for that it's over. Game over.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. I personally don't know. Like, if you're a Texas kid and if there's other warm places you can go, I know Austin's a great city. There's also other fantastic cities and probably arguably better college towns, because I feel like Austin's a little bit more than a college town now. So it depends on what you're looking for. But I don't know. They've been pretty bad for so long. I don't know why you all of a sudden think. And this year just makes it even worse.
Matthew McConaughey is why
he can't even overcome what is happening. That just shows you how
it hurts my heart.
That's how much of a bad spot. All right, so we've talked a lot in this first half here. Why don't we quickly go through? So upsets, we've been waiting for Oklahoma to drop one. I was surprised it would be Baylor. Caleb Williams, the hero.
Not me, baby. I took the Bears.
Yeah, he got benched. So the true freshman, you kind of have to pump the brakes there, which maybe people had a little bit of unrealistic expectations. That's how it goes. This probably takes Oklahoma out of the playoff because they were already fringy, even undefeated, one loss in a weak Big 12, and they're done. So
I think there's a real chance for Cincinnati to get in now, though. Like there's a real chance for Cincinnati to.
They're definitely
sneak on in there.
They're going to need some help because if the 4 teams win out, which is a really good chance.
Well, what are we not going to get to next week's preview?
Yeah, we can. And then the other thing quickly here, Mississippi State, Auburn. Auburn was up 28-3 at one point at home against Mississippi State. Blew it. They stink.
I noticed that your comment is yikes, War Eagle. They retired their eagle. The eagle that like swoops around, before the game. Stupidest thing I've ever seen. That eagle retired that game. So I didn't bet the game, but I thought like, oh, that gives Auburn an edge. No, sure didn't. But no, EJ, you said that for the playoffs, if you think that those teams that are in there now are going to win out, like I said, I think Oregon's the best team in the country right now. But when we look at next week and potential upset alert and games that we're looking to, Oregon, Utah is most certainly at the top of that list.
Yeah, I mean, it's the real test. So we're down to the last 2 games of the season. So a lot of these teams are finally, seeing real competition, seeing rivals. And in Oregon's case, I mean, not only do they have to go to Utah, and Salt Lake City is one of the best environments in college football. Definitely Oregon and Utah have the two best in the Pac-12. I mean, easy. I'm worried for them. And then they have to survive this and then play their civil war against Oregon State, who is, I think, one of the most improved football teams in all of college football.
I strongly agree.
Yeah. It's a tough go for them. Now they win those two, they've earned it. But
yeah,
I think this is bad news for them at Utah, and I think it's like a 4:00 mid to night game start there in Utah.
So I'll say this too. I think that if there's a chance for Cincinnati to get in, because I'm the one saying that, they should get in. If there's a chance for Cincinnati to get in, a couple things need to happen. So Georgia and Alabama need to win every game and then get to the SEC championship. And then Alabama needs to win for Georgia to get in. If Georgia wins, I don't think Alabama gets in.
No, so that would be the spot for Cincy.
Right. So that's one thing that could happen. The only other options are for Oregon to lose one of these next two games, in which case Cincinnati gets in, which I don't think is going to happen, but it could. So essentially my previous sentence means nothing. And then for a Big Ten team to not get in between Michigan State, Michigan, and Ohio State, I just feel like one of those, something is going to happen here in these, and we'll see in the next 2 weeks. I feel like one of those teams is going to get in, whether it be,
they're going to have to be one loss. One of those teams, one of those one loss Big Ten schools will get in. I don't think they'll all have two losses. I think that would be really hard to do. But they're all one loss right now. One of them will win out, whether it's, I guess there is a chance that something happens. I think the most likely thing is it's either going to be Michigan State beats Ohio State, wins out. Michigan beats Ohio State, wins out. Or Ohio State beats both Michigan schools and wins out. I don't see
any of the two former.
I don't
are good for me.
I don't see a way where Michigan State beats Ohio State and then loses to Penn State, or Michigan beats loses to Maryland and beats Ohio State, or Ohio State. Yeah, I think it's going to end up being a one-loss Big Ten school there. So we can preview here. So Michigan State, Ohio State, it's College game day, noon kickoff in Columbus. For me personally, as a Spartans fan, and I think most Spartans fans are at this point now, this season is just a Cinderella story for us in general. For me at this point, anything's just kind of like gravy. We beat Michigan, beat Indiana, got that trophy back. We don't really have any business beating Ohio State. It doesn't mean we won't, but as far as talent level on each side of the ball, it's Ohio State by a million. But we'll see.
You guys are just Bill Murray and Caddyshack, just Cinderella boy, come out of nowhere.
And I will say,
extension for Mel.
Right. I will say, I think we're going to compete, and I don't think Mel's coming in with my mindset. And we've beaten Ohio State. We've had worse teams win in Columbus. We've had backup quarterbacks win in Columbus in those D'Antonio years. So it's not out of the question, but I'm looking at Ohio State's offense and I'm looking at Michigan State's defense. And Ohio State could score 60. I think the best chance we have is being able to run the ball and eat some possessions.
But affecting the quarterback. I don't think that kid's any good. So
I disagree, but I guess we'll see here. But yeah, it's going to be a good game for me. It's going to be just a great measuring stick for me, even though Tucker has come out and dismissed that notion. But it's going to be good to see kind of how far Michigan State really is from competing for the Big Ten, because we'll never have as many talented players as Ohio State, but if we can bridge the gap a little bit closer, which I think Tucker can do, and hopefully these extensions get signed, and keeps him away from LSU, because now the numbers it's even bigger. It's 10 years, 95. So it's looking like 9.5 a year for him. So I think that comfortably keeps him at Michigan State until someone dips into the 10 or 11 in the NFL to pull him out. But yeah, this is going to be great. I'm really excited. I'm hopeful for a close game. Like, I don't want to get blown out. Yep, I'm not going to be surprised if they do, but I want a good game. I want us to be in it in the fourth quarter and actually have a chance. And if they win this game, boy, watch out.
I'm pulling for you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll see. And then the other one I kind of highlight, I don't know if you want to talk about it. I highlight it just because technically Woo Pig Suey's ranked and goes to Tuscaloosa. I think the line's like 20. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah.
Do you have any real concerns?
Well, I mean, our coaching staff is full of a bunch of dimwits, so I'm always concerned with Bill O'Brien and Pete Golding as our coordinators. But I mean, they should win this game. The biggest thing for me with Alabama right now is Will Anderson's Heisman candidacy. I hope that he gets there. Like, there's some talk about Will getting the Heisman. I think that'd be fantastic for him.
Not on a defense like that.
Yeah. Well,
part of it is that, as sad as it is, part of it is just your team has to be good. You can't just be the best team.
But the coach is the worst defensive coordinator you've ever seen in your life, and he's still killing it. So
they don't see it that way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll see what happens. EJ, I'd love to take a potty break right now. So can we hit the old timeout button, and let's dive into the trophy for this week.
Trophies.
Plural. Yeah, I know. I'll send you up for that, pal. I'll send you up for that. All right.
Great.
Timeout, folks.
Guys, we will be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Mike, did you refresh your drink, or did you go potty? Are you good?
I went pee.
Okay. You feel good? Your bladder's emptied?
Yeah, I feel really good about that.
Okay. I'm glad.
I've been hydrating a lot. I've been working out heavily in preparation for Thanksgiving. I want to make sure that the metabolism's at an all-time high so I can really ingest as much food as possible.
Got it.
Because like, honestly, Thanksgiving fare is like any other day of the week. It's like, it's not my favorite food. Turkey's good and the sides are all great, but like, it's not my favorite food. But like on Thanksgiving, like, let's dig in.
Oh, I'm all about it. Give me mashed potatoes, give me gravy, give me turkey.
You a sweet potato guy? You like some sweet potato casserole?
I do. I am a fan of pretty much any food on Thanksgiving beside green beans. Not a big green bean guy. So
I like green bean casserole.
Yeah, that's okay, but I don't like green beans.
So I like to no matter what I'm taking a bite of on Thanksgiving, I like to put it with my my sweet potato casserole. I like to just get a little bit of that on every forkful.
Let's just say my plate's sloppy on Thanksgiving.
You slop it up.
I slop it up all over the place.
Attaboy.
Yeah, it's sloppy. All right, so why don't we talk about the two trophies that we have today? So today we're talking about the Freedom Trophy, and that is played between the Wisconsin and Nebraska. And then we're talking about the Land Grant Trophy, played between Michigan State and Penn State. So why don't we start off by talking about the Freedom Trophy first?
Let's do it.
So let me hit you with some fun facts here. Really just one fun fact for this one. So this is one of the newest rivalries that has a trophy. So Nebraska and Wisconsin have only played each other 14 times over the years. Only
really?
14. Yeah.
14?
14
that seems low.
Total times.
So what made them? Well, I guess that we'll find out why they decided to do a trophy.
Yes, we will. But what are your first impressions of said trophy?
Let me scroll down. Ooh, that's neat. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like an homage to the Star Spangled Banner, like, living in Baltimore for a few years.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something that would be an homage to the Star Spangled Banner. So that's a really nice looking trophy. So is this the whole thing, the trophy?
It's the whole thing.
That's a ridiculously large base. Okay. So just so everyone knows, there is a comically large, like rectangular wooden base. Like it's compared to the rest of the trophy. So I would say that the wooden base it's a trapezoid, not a rectangle. And it's about like, I guess
I'd say
triple or double the size.
I'd say double to triple the size of the rest of it.
Of the actual trophy. And it just, there's a plaque at the top that says Freedom Trophy. And then there's a little tiny plaque in the smallest writing you ever did see that talks about, what does it say?
I can read it to you later.
Okay. You'll read it to me
But
later.
What does the top look like?
The top is really cool. And if the trophy was just the top, it would be sick. But the fact that they have this comically large wooden base with just blank space and the smallest little quote, like the smallest little box for a quote that you ever did see. Like when you
scroll down a little bit further, you'll see they fill the space.
Oh, they did fill the space. Well, it's still comical.
It is, like, but yes,
they've only played 14 times. Right. But the top of the trophy is dope because it's a stadium with a massive flag, like the flag that you would see at a Texas car dealership at the top. And like the way it's like wrapped upon itself is really, really cool. So I'd love to go see a game at this stadium, at this hypothetical stadium that has this massive flag that's probably just whipping fans in the face. The top part's cool. The bottom part is just dumb. But I see that they did fill the space to like add an additional plaque for, you know, the wins and everything like that. But it's just something about like the fact it's not filled in, it rubs me the wrong way.
So all this time, you and Joe have put such a big onus on big trophies and how little trophies are silly. And this trophy tells you, hey, listen, I got a really cool design on top, and I'm just going to add some girth to make it a 2-person minimum trophy to carry.
It feels like
you're
they're trying
giving
hard.
It flack.
It feels like they're trying hard. They are trying hard here to be big.
No, that's what they're doing is
like.
They're forward thinking, because guess how many plaques I got to put on that for the scores in the future? They got quite a few decades before they got to do anything to this thing.
I guess that's true. And as we get the scores and stuff,
I was gonna say, if that was full of scores, would that make you feel better?
It would. It really would.
Okay. Check back in, guys. Yeah. We will do not rewatch, but we'll just like a revisiting season in 10 years of where these trophies are now. And we'll see if
I hate that you're calling me out on this, because you're absolutely right. I'm gonna see that thing full of names and dates. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that looks awesome. That's the best trophy I've ever seen. Because I mean, the top is so cool. Yeah. Because it looks like the flag is also in the shape of like a bell. It makes me think of the Liberty Bell. Like that's maybe what they were doing when they thought this out. Like it's pretty neat. And the fact that the base is a trapezoid and it all comes up together like it's a pyramid. They had some people, they probably had like Deloitte or Accenture be like, let's synergize and harmonize and figure out the right way to make something aesthetically pleasing. So
all right, so why don't I give you some of the history of the rivalry?
Lay it on me.
Whatever there is. So the first matchup was in 1901. And
they played 14 times since. Oh boy.
So Wisconsin won that game 18-0. And then the two teams after 1901, the two teams wouldn't play again until 1965. So yeah, long time. And Nebraska won that game 37-0. So the overall series, Wisconsin leads at 10 wins to 4 losses. And so this was actually, I forgot which article wrote about it, but they said that this was like one of the budding rivalries in college football because, again, they've only played 14 times.
Yeah,
and
I'm surprised by that. I would think that they played more.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those kind of situations where there was never an incentive for either team who weren't in the same conference to schedule each other because of how the incentive for that, because in college football, and I'm really hoping that some of these playoff expansions will get away from this, you can't lose a game. And especially when it was just the BCS, you really couldn't lose a game and make it to a national championship. So there was zero reason to schedule tough teams from other conferences.
Right.
But these two teams have played each other every year since 2011, when Nebraska joined the Big Ten. And they actually played twice in 2012. They faced off in the regular season, and then they faced off in the Big Ten championship, because when Nebraska was added, the divisions weren't geographically based. So one was in the leaders and one was in the legends. So the first matchup, the regular season one, Nebraska won 30-27. And then they got the rematch in the Big Ten championship game, and Wisconsin got the revenge, winning 70-31. So, yeah,
that's some revenge right there.
Yes. So, Mike, I really hope this isn't a breaking point in our friendship, but because we have two trophies to discuss today, and this trophy was implemented in 2014, and we've already had trophies that have been implemented in 2014, we're not going to do your favorite segment today.
I'm out. We're not going to know what life was like in 2014. How will I go on?
We have already talked about
that. Son of a no longer. No.
I'm sorry.
Okay, fine. I forgive you. Just because your daughter's cute as all get out. That's you. Oh, you son of a gun.
I promise next week, which is a wonderful trophy and an old trophy, we will bring the segment back. But this week,
fair.
We're gonna move on. Okay, I'm sorry. So prior to the 2014 season, the two universities announced that they would start playing for the Freedom Trophy. So 2014 was when they got put in the same division. That was when Maryland and Rutgers joined the Big Ten, and that's when they split to East and West, in which they were going to be guaranteed to play each other every year.
So why did they decide that they need a trophy for this rivalry? Just because?
Yes, and because of the history of the two schools, which they found, which is actually really cool and interesting, and that's hence why the Freedom Trophy, and I'll get to why that is. But why don't I just tell you what Barry Alvarez said, and let you glean what you want from there. Big fella. And Barry Alvarez is the Wisconsin AD. And he said, trophy games are part of the tradition of college football. And I'm thrilled that we're going to be introducing one into our rivalry with Nebraska. The Freedom Trophy brings recognition to two historic football venues, and it honors our nation's veterans. It is something I know coaches, student athletes, and fans of both programs will embrace for years to come. And the Nebraska athletic director, Sean Eichhorst, had similar sentiments when he said, "We are honored to partner with Wisconsin in an annual Freedom Trophy game, as both of our football programs and stadiums have rich histories and traditions. The Freedom Trophy provides a unique opportunity for us to pay special tribute to the brave men and women who have and will continue to defend our nation's freedom." So
I dig on that.
I didn't find an exact reason. I think it was once Nebraska joined the Big Ten, and they had played each other here and there over the years since the 60s. But I think once they joined it and they had some early kind of success, and that meant the games were important to each other. And they're really not far distance wise. The two schools. Yeah. I think it was just one of those things where they kind of jumped on the opportunity to make it a rivalry trophy. And
fair enough. Yeah, everyone likes a trophy. Yeah.
And I think the reasons why they did, or the outcome they came together, they found the common ground between their two schools, and I think that was kind of cool. So why don't I tell you, for the listeners, a more in-depth description of the actual trophy and why it's called the Freedom Trophy. So it was designed and sculpted by Harry Weber, of Wright City, Missouri, and it features a bronze football stadium with an American flag extending from the
massive
center.
flag.
Massive. So the flag itself is half the size of the stadium, or the same size as the stadium. So half of that big part on the top. So one half of the outside of the trophy, of the stadium part, it depicts the north section of Wisconsin's Camp Randall, which was built in 1917, and the other half of it is the east side of Nebraska's Memorial Stadium, that was built in 1923.
I like that. That's cool.
So that stadium that you saw, it's the two rings are the two different sections of
I like that.
those stadiums.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, the stadium and flag sculpture sits on top of a massive wooden base that is a dedicated space for the future Wisconsin and Nebraska game scores. And so I know you were wondering what there is a plaque above that had an inscription, and it was hard to read in the picture that I provided. So let me show you what it reads. And this is on both sides of the trophy. So it says, the Freedom Trophy pays tribute to the brave men and women who have fought in our nation's wars. The University of Wisconsin's Camp Randall Stadium, built on what was once a Civil War training ground, and the University of Nebraska's Memorial Stadium, dedicated in honor of our nation's veterans, stand as proud monuments to those who have sacrificed so much in the name of freedom. So that's what that plaque is.
I like that a lot.
I'm cool. Sorry to you guys. I had no idea about Camp Randall.
I didn't either.
Was built on a Civil War training ground.
I did not know that.
I think that was pretty cool.
I didn't even know Wisconsin was in the Civil War. So,
I mean, maybe it wasn't called Wisconsin at that time, so it still could have been some sort of territory. Yeah.
How about
so
that?
I thought that was pretty cool. And really the last fun fact I have for you, with this stadium, or with this trophy, excuse me, is Nebraska has never won the Freedom Trophy.
Well, okay. That makes sense to me.
They have not beaten Wisconsin since 2014. So they have never had the pleasure of hoisting this trophy.
Okay.
Okay, so why don't we then talk about the rankings? I want to do the rankings with this first.
Let's do the rankings for this first,
before we get to the next trophy. So right. Mike, what are you thinking?
So looks, I'm gonna give it a 3 because I know that like it's a comically large blank space, but I understand it's gonna be filled out. So I think that it might go up for me in the future. I love the part at the top. It's just like the base is just blank. It's just weird. They'll look cool in the future. So I'm gonna say 3 for now. History, I was gonna give it a 1 until you said everything that you said about like why it was created. So I'm gonna say 2. And then the rivalry itself, like a 1. Like I really, it seems like they just made this trophy just to, it seems contrived to me. So I'm going to say it's a 1 rivalry. And for that reason, I'm going to give it a low tier. It's just seems like they were kind of trying to shoehorn a trophy into this rivalry. And maybe one day, like when we look back 10 years from now, I'll value this higher. But right now, the Freedom Trophy is just, it's not that great. So,
oh man, I am not in agreement with you.
Fair enough.
I think, especially again, like I understand the base is awkward looking now because there isn't enough appearances, so the scores look kind of awkward. But I think the top part of that is one of the best.
It does look really good. It does look good.
I'm going with a 4. This is I remember briefly researching this, but not seeing what it looked like, and so I didn't have high hopes at all for this. I was shocked in the best way. I absolutely love it. The only thing keeping it from a 5 is the base. And I understand it practically. I think it'll look better 20 years from now when it's filled in. It's a 4 for me. I think the history is like a 2.5. It's not a big history. I think it's awesome that they're
yes. The reason behind it's cool, but like it just feels a little contrived.
Sure.
So,
but you could say that within all these trophies have to have a beginning. This one's just very early on.
Yeah, but like not every beginning is because like your opposing student body is going to poison you, or because like, so
they were just a couple decades too late. Maybe if they had started playing each other regularly, a couple decades ago, maybe. But it's a 2.5 for me there. And then the rivalry itself, I have it at a 1.5, just because mainly it's so new and Nebraska hasn't been good yet when it's been a rivalry. So I hope it grows, because I mean, Nebraska is a great football program and they're going through a lot. And hopefully it gets back, and obviously Wisconsin's great. So for me, I'm still going to put it because I love how it looks. I wouldn't feel right about putting it in the low. So I have to put it into a mid, just because I love how much it looks that much.
We're going to have to go back and we're going to have to go back and look at, well, actually you only have, I'm looking, you have 2 trophies. You have 1 trophy in the low tier.
Really? Only one?
You have 1.
I feel like I had a couple low mids that maybe
you have one
lows.
low mid. You have 1 low. You've said others. You let off with others as being potential low mids, but then you brought them up to a mid. Your only low is the shillelagh. Your low mid is George Jewett. You beat the hell out of George Jewett. It was the rivalry. That's what brought down to low mid for you. But then some of your other low mids were probably like Land of Lincoln. I feel like it was a low mid for you.
Yeah. Well, that's the great part about this, is we're going to revisit all of these now that we, after we've seen them all and have perspective and comparison, because a lot of those were in the early days. We only had so many to compare to, right, so you can't really just call something low, especially in my mind, because I knew what was to come with a few of these. So I wanted to be as fair at the time as possible, but now reflecting back, I expect all 3 of us to have some changes probably from what I
did drop a Instagram post of where we're at with all the trophies and like what the rankings are. So if you check out our Instagram at whiskers.whiskies, the most, well, at the time of this recording, you'll definitely see the post for this episode. But I just dropped last weekend, like what our rankings look like. So you can see who's sitting at the top. Our proud boy Floyd is sitting right at the tippy top. Our good Husky boy. And then you can see where everything else ranks.
See, what I would love to do, and obviously we'll have a much more thought out plan for this upcoming episode to wrap up the season. But I think we should do a new rankings, but I think we should do it in different categories. So potentially maybe like just looks, and then taking into account the other information like the history and the rivalry.
Oh, so just what it looks like.
As a separate one. Yeah. So that's a separate list of rankings. And then a list of rankings with the histories. I think that would be cool. Potentially.
That would actually go. That would be super interesting,
because I think it would be different.
Yeah. There's some trophies that look pretty good.
Yeah.
Like
George Jewett looks fantastic.
Yeah. The old oaken bucket.
Yeah.
I really like how it looks. And so do you. You had that high too. But everything else was well, actually you and I differed on that. I'm looking.
Well, let's not give them too much. This will be a nice little episode.
That'll actually be cool.
I like that. Okay, so why don't we transition into the land grant trophy? EJ, so fun fact.
Yeah.
Michigan State, followed by Penn State, are the nation's oldest land grant universities, hence the name of the trophy. Can you name the other Big 10 schools that are land grant schools? There's 5 of them.
So there's 5 land grant schools, and Michigan State's the oldest.
In addition to,
and then Penn State. Okay, so Ohio State.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the only other one that has a state in it.
Okay, yeah. Well, then slam dunk there. Iowa?
No.
Okay, so let's do 3 strikes and I'm out. So strike one. Maryland.
No.
What qualifies as a land grant? Like what does that mean?
That means that before these two schools, it was I believe it had to be like private financiers that started the university, and the land grant was when the government actually gave property to the states for the purpose of building universities.
So that's why I thought Maryland would be it. Okay. Wisconsin.
Yes.
Sweet.
3 more.
2 strikes. Oh, yep. I only got 1 strike left. And I got 3 more schools. So I don't think Northwestern. I don't think Rutgers.
All of them are in the Big Ten West, if that helps.
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously it helps. Nebraska?
No.
Fuck.
Purdue?
Sorry for the listeners.
Minnesota.
Purdue. Oh, Minnesota would have been a good one to guess.
Illinois.
See, I probably wouldn't have gone Purdue, but Minnesota and Illinois would have been next up on the list.
So what are your first impressions of this trophy?
EJ, I know this trophy. Like, this is one that I love because it is the goofiest looking trophy. And spoiler alert, it's a 5. I love it because it's so freaking goofy. It looks like it was made like I like just a kid, like a 10-year-old kid was like, what are your favorite things? And let's throw them on the trophy. Yeah. So for folks who haven't seen this before, it is the goofiest looking trophy of all time. So you have this big wooden block, right? A big, tall wooden block.
It's literally a wooden block.
It's a big old wooden block.
Rectangle.
At the top, you get big old rectangular block. It's a column, a rectangular column. And at the top, you have this just football guy, right? Like you would get.
You have a Pee-wee trophy.
You have a Pee-wee trophy at the top, right?
Yeah.
And there's also like some like wood around it, which makes no sense because it doesn't even come to the whole end of it doesn't go the whole way to the one end, which I think is just awesome. And then on this wooden block column, you have shelves. And on the one shelf is the Nittany Lion. On the other shelf is the Spartan. And then thank you, EJ, for including this diagram because it tells me that on the side. So, all right. So we're looking at the front of, let's look at the front.
We'll call it the front. Yeah. Okay.
We're looking at the front.
Yeah.
On the right side is the shelf with the Nittany Lion and the shelf with the Spartan. And then below those shelves, which are staggered, there's a smaller black and white photo of the land grant university buildings.
So they're like Old Main. Yeah. Like the land. Yeah. They're university buildings.
And then below that, there's color photos of the land grant, a separate color photo. It's a single black and white photo that captures both. And then separate colored photos. And then on a shelf, and ornate shelving is what this graphic tells me. Yeah. And then a little thing that says the land grant trophy. And then on the front is the list of the trophy winners. And it's just, if I was 8 years old and you asked me to make, if I was a diehard Spartan or Nittany Lion fan, and you asked me to make a trophy, this is what I would make. And I love it. Like, it is so like near and dear to my heart as like a child of like what I would do. It's like my favorite things, like, and I just put them together like that. Yeah. So I love this trophy.
I forgot to include this, and I should have, but we'll definitely include it in the picture of this episode. Is people have turned this into a Halloween costume, which is hilarious.
No way.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
You and I are going as the land grant trophy next year.
Mike,
I don't care.
You missed 2 major parts of this trophy.
What did I miss?
The textbook butt joint. That was highlighted in this diagram. So and also the reclaimed wood and premium wood stain.
Yes, it is premium wood stain.
Why they
yes.
needed to include either of those in this diagram is hilarious. But
yeah, this diagram itself is
ridiculous.
So wonderful. I'm definitely sharing this on Instagram.
But as you can see, it is an absolute behemoth when you see players.
It's a big boy. It's a big boy.
It's probably the biggest.
How big
about.
Is it?
I mean, look at the second picture with like.
Oh, that's a big boy.
I mean, that's at least 3.5 feet, 4, probably 4 with the player at the top.
Yeah. I was thinking Heroes Trophy's the biggest, but that actually might be bigger.
If those guys are obviously over 6 foot, like that's well over half of them.
Yeah. Oh, I love this trophy.
So if you were wondering, this bad boy weighs 76 pounds.
Not as big as Floyd.
No, but it's as big as an 11-year-old boy.
Oh my gosh. The next trophy. So not the next picture, not the first picture you shared, but the second picture. Yeah. These fellas are struggling to hoist this bad.
Yeah. It's obnoxiously large.
EJ, 76 pounds. Let's relate that in size. How much does that weigh compared to like other things?
It is on average the size of an 11-year-old boy. It is 100 cans worth of beer that weighs 76 pounds. If you're wondering M&Ms, because obviously I know you are, that's approximately 37,500 M&Ms.
Regular peanut butter M&Ms are best, by the way, but
I'm gonna go with just regular. I think these aren't the girthy M&Ms. And then it's also, if you're really curious, it is approximately 262,500 bees worth of weight.
Bees. 262,000 bees weigh 76 pounds.
There you go. Boy. The more you know.
It makes me feel pretty good against a bee infestation. Although bees are our friends. Hornets, they're the real assholes. But
so why don't I give you some of this history of the rivalry? So the first matchup was in 1914, and that's when the Michigan Agricultural College won 6-3.
The Fighting Fawns.
And the Spartans won 8 of the first 10 meetings, with one of those being a tie.
How many did the Fawns win?
I'm not sure. I think probably half of those, maybe. I'm not sure. So the series itself is tied. 17 wins, 17 losses, 1 tie.
Oh, they've only played 35 times. That's surprising.
Well, Penn State was independent for all those years prior to joining the Big Ten.
Right.
So with scheduling reasons, I think Notre Dame was our independent schedule. So so these two teams play every year, and it's usually is the last game of the year for both teams, which is interesting. So the history of the trophy itself. So when Penn State joined the Big Ten in 1993, the Nittany Lions and the Spartans were designated as permanent rivals and met each other for the trophy in the last week of conference play. So it was when they joined and they were designated permanent rivals, the schools decided that they should have a trophy because of that. And 2010 marked the first time that the schools had played each other since hold on, sorry, I think I got that wrong. I think it was 1993. Yeah, sorry, I wrote that wrong. 1993 was the first time the two schools had played each other since 1966. So there was a huge gap in time between these two teams playing, and then once the Nittany Lions joined the conference,
I was just saying, no way this trophy was created in 2010, right? Like this is
correct.
This is a 90s trophy. Like it feels so 90s.
Yes.
Like it feels like that's why I feel like it would, like me as a 90s kid, I would create this trophy. So it had to be created in the 90s by an 8-year-old somewhere.
No, actually. You want to know who designed it?
Yes.
It is George Perlis.
8 years old.
No, very, very famous Michigan State coach. He wasn't the coach at the time of the designing it, but he's one of the legendary coaches, really up there with like D'Antonio. He might have been the most winningest coach.
How
prior
old was
to
he when
D'Antonio.
he designed it?
Old.
Yeah. So like senile, probably a mind equivalent to that of an 8-year-old at the time. And I love it. Hey, George, I assume RIP in peace.
Oh, that's a good question. I believe
Let's assume so. Anyways, if
Sure.
not now, then in the future, RIP in peace to George Perlis. Great trophy design. I love it, man. Whatever you were on smoking, whatever pills the retirement home was putting into your Jello, man, great trophy.
Oh, how did I not know this? He passed away last year.
Damn.
85 years old.
2020 claims another one.
So at the time he was math 60s.
Spry.
Yes. He passed away from Parkinson's disease.
Oh shit. Well, now I feel like an asshole.
No, I mean, it is what it is. He's a legend, designed this trophy. I mean, it's something.
I love it. It's fantastic.
So as Mike, you mentioned, this trophy has a little bit of everything. It features the pictures of Penn State's Old Main and Michigan State's Beaumont Tower, 3 technically pictures, one that has both of them together in black and white, and the figurines of the Spartans and then the Nittany Lion shrine statues that they have on campus. So like I said, it was 1993. It was implemented. That was the first time that 2 schools had played each other since 1966. And then from 93 through 2010, that's where I had my 2010. They played each other every year for this trophy. And then in 2011, when Nebraska joined the Big Ten, the conference is split, like we had mentioned, and Michigan State was put in the Legends division and Penn State was put in the Leaders division. So they no longer played each other annually. Instead, Indiana was designated as Michigan State's permanent rival, and Nebraska was designated as Penn State's permanent rival. So under this setup, Penn State and Michigan State were supposed to compete on average 2 out of every 5 years, but the 2 teams did not play each other during the 3 years that the system was in effect, from 2011 to 2013. So in 2014, when Rutgers and Maryland joined the Big Ten and the 2 schools were reunited, it did feel so good in the same division. In the East, because this was much more geographically divided. They've played each other every year ever since. And like I had mentioned, they play each other the last game of the season, mainly because Michigan State's other rival, Michigan, always has Ohio State at the end of the year. So that always bumps Michigan and Michigan State in October. So that opened up the last game for us, and it was always Penn State, and that will continue until this year. This is the last year that it will be the last game of the year. The Big Ten scheduling has continued to get wonky, and now with the new alliance, I'm not sure there's going to be too many games that are safe as far as like traditionally when they're played. When you start to throw in all these different the 3 conferences together. So they're going to still play each other every year, but it will not be at the end of the year. I believe Michigan State pulls like Maryland and Rutgers, maybe Indiana at the end of the year. The next couple of years I looked, but obviously you can't look too far ahead because eventually the alliance will bump off some of these out of conference games that have been in the making for 10 years or so.
Right. It'll be interesting to see where football goes with this alliance and the super SEC.
Yeah.
So
last little fun fact here for you. Well, actually I have 2 fun facts to finish this off.
Ooh.
So Michigan State followed by Penn State was the 2 oldest land grant universities, like I'd mentioned before. And in 1955, on the 100th anniversary of the founding of the land grant system, Michigan State and Penn State were commemorated on a U.S. postage stamp honoring the first of the land grant colleges.
Hell yeah.
And
Postage stamps.
And
Let's go.
And these two universities were the first ever universities to be placed on a U.S. postage stamp.
Let's go.
There
Love
you go.
Anyone
out there have that 1955 postage stamp? It's probably worth some money now.
Stamps. I mean,
yeah,
people love them.
And the other one is, I thought this was kind of funny because we've already talked about this.
I used to think whenever I was a kid that like finding like stamps or like collecting stamps, like that was gonna be a thing, you know, like you retire on a good stamp. Nah, not so much the case. But I also thought when I was a kid that I was gonna have to worry about the Pythagorean theorem and things like that a lot more. But turns out, not so much.
No, most math is useless unless you're in particular jobs.
Yeah, agreed.
So the last kind of thing, I thought it was kind of interesting because we've talked about this in other episodes, but on September 24th, 2005, during Michigan Week, a couple of Penn State students defaced the newly installed bronze Sparty statue, and the statue was splattered with blue paint and the base tagged with the letters PSU, and the perpetrators were able to evade capture despite the incident occurring in the middle of the day during the traditional period of time which a statue is guarded by the Sparty Watch. So the marching band really...
Who would have thought? We talked about the Sparty Watch. Who would have thought those bodyguards would ever be caught sleeping? Except the only time I've seen them is pictures of them sleeping. So
middle of the day, Penn State fans, not even Michigan fans, defaced Sparty Watch. I'm sorry. 2005 Spartans marching band. Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Also, I just realized we disparaged math quite a bit. Shout out Marin.
Oh yeah,
math
stinks. The math teacher.
Sorry,
sixth grade class with
everything.
With Miss Machen.
Marin's sixth grade class. Don't listen to her. Everything she says is just bullshit. So it just doesn't. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be a problem. Yeah,
you got calculators. It's fine. Yeah. You're good.
Yeah.
So that's it. So why don't we look at our rankings here? And sorry for the listeners. I totally forgot to mention this earlier. But just a reminder, we rank on a scale of 1 to 5 for looks, for history, for the rivalry itself, and then overall, whether we put it in a bottom tier, middle tier, or top tier. So, Mike, you already gave us your looks, but you can say it again.
This big, beautiful bitch is a 5 for me. I just love it. It's so goofy. It's fantastic. I love it. History, like, I don't even quite, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Sure.
It's a 2. I don't understand. Rivalry itself, also 2. 3. Michigan State and Penn State's always pretty good. You know, like it's going to be competitive. So I'm going to say it's a 3. Like I'm definitely more interested in seeing that than I am Wisconsin, Nebraska. So I'm going to say it's a 3 for me. So
overall,
mid tier for me. I love it's so goofy. I love it. I love special things like this, and it touches me. So.
All right. So for looks for me, I have the same feeling as far as like it is so uniquely ugly, but like the only part it's the only reason why this isn't a 1 looks for me is because it's so goofy. So I put it as a 2.5. It's just
you offend me, sir.
I can't get on board with this.
I love special things.
It's a big it's special, that's for sure. The history itself, 1.5. I'm with you there. Just kind of, I mean, it's cool that they're both land grant. I think the connection between the two schools
stamps
was cool, but I mean, there's nothing much to it really. The rivalry, and this is probably just because I'm a Spartans fan. I put it as a 4. Penn State is always a game I look forward to every year. It's always Michigan. When I was a kid, it was Notre Dame. And then, I had Notre Dame and Penn State at the same level. We just had crazier games with Notre Dame that were memorable. But I always loved it. I always loved that it was the end of the year. I always hated Penn State because of that. So it's a 4 for me, and then this is a bottom tier for me.
What?
I mean, with the numbers don't lie. I love the rivalry itself is a top tier.
Hold on.
the
you
look and the
gave lower
histories.
numbers for the Freedom Trophy, and you said that's a mid tier, and you're putting this one as a low tier.
Wait, how did I have lower numbers?
Oh, well, it came. Hold on, let me do the math. Let me do the math. Hold on a sec.
Because I in my point of view of the three categories, I think the Rivalry is probably the lowest for me when it comes to, because we're rating trophies, right? So the looks is obviously important,
but you put the Rivalry as a 4, right?
Yeah. So that's the least.
That's
the lowest
okay,
category.
So the weight.
Yes, the weight. Yeah. If I'm weighting it,
your average is higher on this one than it is on the other one.
By how much? Like it has to be like 0.5 or something.
It's
right?
2.5 versus 2.83.
Okay.
Because you had the Rivalry at 1.5 for Freedom and at 4 for here. But then you put history. Oh, so it's the looks of the Freedom. That's what gets you.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
That's what gets you.
But that's important in a trophy ranking is how it looks to you.
It's unique and beautiful.
It's unique. It's ugly.
It's unique. Oh, I love it, dude. I love it. Because you gotta be weird to like college football. Like it's freaking weird, man. And this is weird.
It's ugly. All right. So why don't we preview? So I didn't mention this before, but the land grant, or we did, but let's kind of bring it full circle here.
Recap.
The land grant trophy is always played on the last week of the regular season. So that's going to be not this upcoming weekend, but the following weekend. So this game is not going to be on when this is recorded that weekend, but the Freedom Trophy is. So the Freedom Trophy, so unranked Nebraska, who is 3-7, is traveling to the number 18. I don't know where they are now. They're probably similar in the teens. Wisconsin, who are 7-3, have really turned around their season since those Notre Dame and Michigan games. So what are your predictions for this game?
Oh, I think Wisconsin whoops that butt.
Whoops it.
Ass. Yeah.
Whoops it.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin's resurgence is because of their defense. And I forgot what Jim Leonard named their defense. They have like some sort of nickname the last couple games. I can't remember what it was. That's kind of been their resurgence, is that I think we've been talking about it all year long, how Nebraska's going to get someone. I just have a feeling that Wisconsin's going to get got.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's either going to be a Nebraska win or a blowout.
Yeah,
by Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It's going to be one or the other.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes me nervous about that pick is Wisconsin's defense has played well, and Nebraska loves to shoot themselves in the foot. But I just have a feeling Wisconsin's feeling great, has a chance at the Big Ten West, and they didn't 4 weeks ago. And I just feel like this is the game that Nebraska does it. So I'm going to go Nebraska close game, but I could see it being a blowout.
If it is close, see, I don't want to say that it's close to halftime, because at halftime people make adjustments. But I don't know, man. I feel like Nebraska's just not up for it, dude. I feel like they're out. I think 5,000. So
maybe. I mean, Scott Frost has really still doesn't have that win, and this could really save his butt.
That's true.
If he were to do this, so.
Well, do the players care though? Because
that's true.
The Florida Gators don't give a damn about Dan Mullen.
Well, Adrian Martinez. I always want to say Taylor. I think it's Adrian Martinez. 7-year senior. This is towards the end of the road for him. I think he tries everything he can. Maybe tries too hard.
To the end of the road, and I can't let you go. It's unnatural. You belong to me. I belong to you. Oh, boys to men.
Oh, great.
Oh, boys to men.
So this game
Motown Philly's back again. Dude. All right. Okay.
So this game is on ABC at 3:30. So tune in, look at this trophy, see if you hate it like Mike does, or you love it like I do.
It's a strong word.
Dislike.
Yes, that's fair.
Okay, so that's going to do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to check out our Saturday morning betting posts. And please send us your favorite bets for the weekend. I am on a cold streak lately, the last couple days.
EJ and Joe have kids. They have kids.
I need money. Help me make money.
Diapers are expensive.
Babies got to eat. So join us next week for a massive episode. We're going to recap the 4 other games in addition to this that are happening that we've talked about already this year because the games are finally happening. But we're going to talk about one of the most famous trophies in all of college football, Paul Bunyan's axe.
Let's go.
For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Here's boys.